Pelican Brewing presents today's Daily Ticker, and Pelican invites you to take a beach break at one of their 5 coastal locations: Cannon Beach, Tillamook, Pacific City, Lincoln City, and the new one, Rockaway Beach. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. It is a Pate State Thursday for us. Josh Pate on Twitter at Josh Pate CFB. Josh Pate's college football show, Sundays, Tuesdays, tonight on Thursday.
That's right.
As he gets ready for another glorious weekend of ball, one of the weekends that people are saying, there's no good games. And then we come in Monday and we say, man, there was like 7 good games in the world of college football. Follow him on Instagram as well. He's great behind-the-scenes content on his IG page. Good morning, Pate. Let's start with the news that happened at the start of our show. Nebraska giving an extension to Matt Rule. Is this a we believe in Matt Rule, or we're scared to lose Matt Rule extension?
Well, I'm still trying to make totally sure that he has signed it extension. It's one of those. Kind of trying to double and triple check. I know they're trying to get that thing over the finish line. The weird part is it quote unquote broke like 3 times yesterday, and every time someone close to it told me, no, not yet. Hopefully, but not yet. So yeah, I think what happened there, if I'm reading between the proper lines, is that job was the Penn State job was probably Matt's to turn down. I don't think it was pursued as aggressively as people thought it would. Maybe by Matt Rule, maybe by other people inside Matt Rule's household. I think we know what I'm talking about there. And so sometimes you just don't want to move there. Sometimes you like where you are. And sometimes someone's going to pay you a lot of money to stay. I think more so than anything, the big take-home point with Matt is going to be, yeah, he's going to make more money, but I think they've really pumped a ton more money into NIL, and that's really, that's going to be the game changer for him. It doesn't matter how long he stays there if he can't get better players there.
Yeah. He had that in his press conference, too, after the job opened up of like, hey, I'd like to get to this point, the point where we're spending $30 to $40 million on our roster. Why can't we do that at Nebraska, which was his subtle way of throwing that out into the universe. How would you handle this from an athletic department standpoint? Because we've seen a lot of these that made sense at the time that have gone on to backfire. Like we talk a lot about Jimbo Fisher and his buyout. The buyout came from the extension that he got at A&M. James Franklin and the $50 million. Hey, he's going to go to USC. Give him an extension. Now it's $50 million to get rid of him. We have a Wisconsin fan who's listening to the show chiming in like, we did this with Luke Fickell. Now we can't afford to fire him. Like, there's a lot of these that end up in the moment. You're like, well, yeah, you got to lock your guy up. And then 2 months later or 2 years later, it is, God, that ended up being a mistake. They might finish 6-6 this year if they don't beat USC. I know it's a very complicated thing. You don't want to lose your head coach. You want to keep continuity. How would you handle this in an athletic department?
I would have to get really creative. I would have to find a different incentive structure that was still lucrative and attractive enough that I could compete in the market. But to me, we always talk about this stuff in pure upfront dollars and cents. A dollar on the table is a dollar on the table. I've got donors that own companies. I've got donors that build companies. Some of them are publicly traded. They have stock options they can offer. They got all different sorts of ways that you could bake in incentive into a contract that doesn't involve raw dollars and cents being taken out of the university's athletic fund or tax dollars being involved. And I think for a long time, no one had to explore those routes because it wasn't necessary. Money wasn't really even real in this sport because you weren't paying the players, so there was so much of it. And we've only, just in the past 4 or 5 years, waded into these waters where we have to practice, fiscal responsibility, dirty words, and most people are not adept in that. So it's kind of trying to learn to drive in Britain. Like, we're still learning to drive in the left lane.
Josh Pate, our guest here, Josh Pate College Football Show every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday on Twitter at Josh Pate CFB. I want to ask you one more coaching, open vacancy question, then we can ask your thoughts on Oregon, Wisconsin, because that was a bit of an ugly game. Yesterday, the governor of Louisiana had a press conference. That was wildly fascinating and I would say a little awful. And then obviously Florida doesn't have a president. He's not allowed to operate, the guy that was picked, for political reasons. And then now you have the AD at Florida, and what's that future? And Woodward's been neutered. Like, I'm kind of curious. I think Florida and LSU on paper are good gigs. Those are gigs that you grew up with. Those were powerhouses. For us out here, even we know those are powerhouses. I also think they're kind of showing themselves a little disorganized and not maybe great environments to work at currently. What are your takeaways from what the governor said and just looking at Florida and LSU aside from name brand recognition and having a history of winning?
Yeah, I got to be real with you guys. I was not totally honest with you last week. When I came on late because the whole Chauncey Billups thing blew up, I was a little aggravated that NBA news on the West Coast had sort of one-upped me. And I took it upon myself. I said, so help me. I will stir the pot in the South. Yes. I will trigger something that I can bring back to Portland and say, you think you got drama? Look at this. I got the governor ripping a head coach out of the AD's hands, but then saying it wasn't me, but then saying it was the Board of Supervisors. And then someone says, well, who appointed the Board of Supervisors? Well, the governor did, but you still can't think I'm complicit in this. All in an accent that you need subtitles to understand. So, yes, that's what's happening down here. This is my world. Welcome to my world now.
It's good to be here.
God, it is absolute madness down there. How many times have you been asked this week about Dan Lanning taking the LSU job?
Oh, a couple. That one's pretty easy to shoot down. Yeah. At that point, I just shoot straight with people, and then if they want to continue to indulge in fantasy, they can do that. But that's not happening. Yeah. I think everyone out there knows that. Most smart people down here know that. But the LSU job, here's the best way that I could describe it. Now, this floated really well on Birmingham radio this morning. We'll see how it works in Portland. You just got to think back to the most attractive girl you knew growing up. Not middle school or high school, but you're in the age range where you're ready to get married. For some of us, that's 21. For some of us, that's 51. But you look at her from a distance, and you think to yourself, if I only were with her, everything would be great. And there's a lot of reason to think that. She's beautiful on the surface. You know nothing else about her. Then you get to know her a little bit. And her mom's a disaster. Her family's a disaster. She's got all kinds of different issues in her own life. And it's just a nightmare once you get behind the curtain. Well, that doesn't change the fact that if you marry her, your buddies are not ready to listen to you complain about how tough you have it because they just see the surface. Yeah. So they just see you're with the most beautiful girl they've ever seen. You got no reason to complain. That's how these jobs are down here. LSU is the beautiful girl that everyone thinks they want, and then someone gets attached to it, and they realize there are 37 different issues under the hood here, but you don't get to complain about it. You're just supposed to go in there and win because you got all these resources. Now, when it's aligned, it's a rocket ship. It's just a freight train moving the same direction. It's not aligned right now. Maybe not forever, but it's not aligned right now. And this is a world of college football in 2025 where it's flattened. The sport is such that you can win a title at Indiana now. So no one is bear crawling over broken glass to these jobs like they used to. So you've really got to display alignment before you're going to get top candidates to consider your job. And that's where I really wonder how this is going to shake out, because not only is it a circus down there right now, but the governor also said, basically, we're not going to traffic in the kind of contracts we used to. Well, to get the kind of candidate you want, you're going to have to, because the market hasn't fundamentally changed yet. So if you're not aligned and you're telling the head candidate pool you're not going to get paid that much here in terms of guaranteed buyout, they're not coming. So who are you going to hire? That's where I am right now on that.
Yeah, our producer basically just said that second tier of college football has found Ozempic, so now everybody's kind of hot, and you're not really sure if you can sort out the hot from the hot.
A couple of follow-ups I'm curious on, Pate, on this, and this is impossible to know, but I'm wondering, to your point about all these big openings, and there's so many of them, probably more on the horizon. If we don't get any big names, I guess two-part for you. If we don't get any big names that leave their current jobs, and they end up having to go maybe the coordinator route, that's not the worst thing in the world, right? Dan Lanning is great. Kirby Smart was a coordinator. It works out for a lot of schools. Does that deter more teams in the future from firing their coach? And have we gotten to the point now where there's so many big-time jobs that are open that some of the other ones are now questioning, is now the right time for us to make a move?
I certainly think Auburn is questioning whether they should make a move now. And I was certain they were going to make a move, and they may still make a move, but yeah, Florida State's another one. I don't know if they're going to make a move now, and I think they were very, very resolute in intending to just a few weeks ago. So I think, yeah, there's validity to that. I also think, and this is my personal working theory, I think it may end up being a blessing in disguise for schools like LSU if they can't land their number one candidate because of all the factors in play. Because truth be told, one of the biggest lies out there right now is the candidate pool is small. No, the hot boards that everyone keeps putting on their websites are small. The actual pool of people qualified to win at LSU, if given the proper resources, is pretty expansive. In fact, it's probably more expansive than normal jobs because LSU has better resources to offer, again, if they're aligned. So I'll just throw out a random name because I really believe in this guy. So Matt Campbell at Iowa State, as an example, is not going to command top dollar in the market, would probably be able to be gotten at a discount, and it wouldn't light the world on fire. The message boards would probably be 30-70, 40-60 against it. But yet Matt Campbell knows how to coach. Matt Campbell knows how to win. Matt Campbell is a really good organization builder. Everyone loves the guy. His players go over the cliff for him. They've kept several big-time players at Iowa State who had bigger offers to go elsewhere. So he's got an established track record of players playing for him at a discount. That's also a money saver. I could see a world where they have to settle, quote unquote, on someone like that, and it being the best thing to ever happen to LSU football. So I still think this thing has a long way to go, and that goes for Florida, that goes for Penn State. I'm just really interested, like if all the big fish just decide to stay home, could it be a blessing?
Yeah, my co-host just threw out randomly, what if it's a name we're not even talking about? What if it's a Dabo Swinney just wants to restart out of Clemson? They're not happy with him. He's probably not happy with them, and let's go to LSU or let's go to Florida. Let's just get out and go to a different conference. Those are interesting things to think about, too, with the impending coaching cycle that's coming up. We need to ask your thoughts. Now, look, we have people, boots on the ground, that can confirm it was 40-mile-an-hour swirling winds and monsoon rain. It was some of the worst weather Duck fans have seen at Autzen Stadium since 2013 is what people were pointing to. But you look at the score, you rewatch the beginning of the game where you see some sunshine on the field, and you think, what's happening here? I'm curious your thoughts of Oregon's 21-7 victory over a pretty terrible Wisconsin team. It's now setting up an even more interesting game with Iowa next week. Your thoughts on Oregon after seeing them against Wisconsin?
Well, my thoughts are I saw them, period. So I know what happened. My thought is also I don't think most of the country watched the game. And especially when we get down the road a little ways, that score will be missing context unless someone, maybe me, is there to point it out. So the biggest crime was, did Dan wear a cotton hoodie?
He did.
In that rain?
Yeah, that was
no hat, cotton hoodie.
That was a hot take, dude. Hot take.
He probably weighed 250 pounds by the time he walked off the field. That's terrible. Terrible decision, man. That's on Kenny Farr. That's on the equipment staff there. That's not even on Dan.
He was asked about it this week. He said he wants, I want to feel like I'm in the fight with my players, is what he said.
Buddy, he was in a fight against hypothermia. That's what he was in a fight against. So, look, you win the games and you move on. That's one of the things when you look at resumes come playoff selection time. You always got to be careful of that because, even if you watched that game, you're watching it in the moment. You're saying, "Wow, this is ugly weather. This is not a standard game." You just kind of throw the stat sheet out the window. Just make sure you get a win. But then someone somewhere who is looking to pick apart Oregon's resume on the selection weekend, they'll use that game against them. They'll weaponize that game. And the worst kinds of people are the ones who do it in bad faith because they watched the game, but they're just trusting that everyone else didn't. And they know they can get away with it. Politicians do that all the time. They speak in language they hope you don't understand so they can make a bad faith argument. Well, I think there's a lot of political nature to the way the playoff structure works. I know that shocks everyone, but I think there's a lot of that in play there. So it's important to make sure people know, hey, we played in a tropical storm. Yeah, we didn't hang 45, but Oregon has the benefit of having a bye week, and then they get to go to Iowa and they get to reestablish their identity nationally. They get to remind people a couple of more times, hey, here's who we are. It's not like these G5 teams that get to play one high-profile game, and that's the perception of that team come hell or high water.
We always appreciate having you on a Thursday. Who do you think is better right now, Ole Miss or Oregon?
Oregon, slightly.
Okay.
I trust the defense. Basically, that's just an internet lag. That's all that was.
Yeah.
That's dial-up. He's got dial-up down there.
Dial-up internet. Pate State University. We love to go to it every Thursday at 7:40. He's on every platform. We love to see his beautiful face on ESPN because he's getting up every morning. Catch his college football show, Josh Pate College Football on YouTube. It is free to subscribe. It helps him and his coworkers. They're on their way to getting 1 million subs. Catch it every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Thursday. Follow him on Instagram, Ramen Noodle Express Picks, and behind the scenes every single week at a new game. Thank you so much, Pate. We appreciate having you on. Have a safe weekend, and we'll talk with you next week.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, there we go. Josh Pate College Football Show every Thursday, 7:40.
Fascinating stuff with those openings, man. Unbelievable jobs, great recruiting platforms, a lot of money, premier conference in college football.
I think Swag is right. I think the tier 2 and 3s,
yes,
they got Ozempic now, and the cool,
I think a lot of coaches are figuring this out,
is suddenly hot, and you're like, well, I'd rather have the down-to-earth person who really appreciates me and believes in me versus go to the high-maintenance individual who is going to demand this and this and that, and if it doesn't happen, we're breaking up.
So a lot of coaches that if they go 8-4 or 9-3, it's like, man, that's not great at your current school, but we're not going to fire you. If you go to LSU or Florida and you go 8-4, 8-4, 8-4, you're going to get fired.
Yeah, crazy.